Welcome to the Hustle Factory Podcast Show. And here's your host, John Limdemis, bringing you amazing insights and views of entrepreneurship on today's society.
Hello, everyone, and I personally welcome you to the episode 4 of the Hustle Factory Podcast Show. In the previous episode, I was discussing the importance of forming positive habits, but now in today's episode, I will be discussing the contradictory of positive habits, the negative habits, ladies and gentlemen. In this episode, I will be discussing about negative habits, what they are, and what triggers us form these negative habits in the first place. In addition, instead of me talking in full depth about these negative habits, I'll be instead to list out the top negative habits that every entrepreneurs and even average people must give up in order to become successful. So let's get on to it. First thing first, bad habits can interrupt and even ruin your life, which prevents you accomplishing and achieving your dreams and goals. Worst case scenario is that they even jeopardize your health both mentally and physically. That is sure is not a good thing, ladies and gentlemen. And not to mention that they actually waste your time and energy. That is something that I do not like, guys. So the next thing on the dot is I would like to quickly discuss what causes us to form these negative habits. To be honest, it is no brainer matter why we form them and what causes them. Most people overlook at this matter way too much. Yet there are times where we have zero idea where these habits came from or formed in the first place. But let me break it to you real quick, guys. Did you know that most of your negative habits are actually caused by these two things? Stress and boredom. The majority of the time, bad habits are simply a way of dealing with stress and boredom. Everything from biting your nails to overspending on a shopping spree to drinking every weekend to wasting time on the ridiculous things that it's just basically a simple response to stress and boredom. Good news is it doesn't have to be that way, guys. You can easily teach yourself new and healthy ways to deal with stress and boredom, which you can actually substitute in place of negative habits. And if you would like to know how you can get started with forming those positive habits, make sure to check out the previous episode, which entitled Positive Habits and how the importance of forming positive habits to your success. Alright, guys. So now let's get on the main gist of the episode. The top negative habits entrepreneurs and even average people keeps forming and what they must avoid at all costs. So first on the list is a negative habit that most entrepreneurs or even average people have. It is a negative habit called multitasking. So what is multitasking means anyways? So let me explain in multitasking this way. So multitasking, also known as single tasking, is a kind of practice or habit per se that is entirely dedicating oneself to a given task and minimizing potential interruption until the task is completely or a significant period of time has passed by. So in other words, multitasking is just another fancy word for multitasking or on steroids. Basically, multitasking is just another fancy word for multitasking on steroids. Well, that is actually pretty funny when you think about it. I mean, wow. Anyways, this is one of those habits that every people need to get rid of, and not just completely get rid of, but never practice them. And not just as entrepreneurs, I mean literally everyone. At the end of the day, or more like at the end of your lives, no one will give a damn or remember at all how quickly we responded to those emails, and the list can goes on. I mean, no one's really gonna care how fast you can finish that job and so on. For the second negative habit that I was mentioning is promising too much. That's right, you heard me loud and clear. Promising too much. I mean, way too much. Now, I know exactly what you are thinking right now. How is promising too much can be a bad thing? Well, here's why. But first, I need to tell you something important as regards of this ridiculous habit. First, promising too much is one of the things that every entrepreneur and even average people must never do. Why? For a very simple reason, guys. When you promise too much to your clients or to your friends, it is practically the same thing as lying to them, because the point of that is that you have no idea if you can actually commit to that promise you made to them. Now, the reason why promising too much is bad news is because you basically in no control or on whatever you promise to your customers and even to your friends. So if you break a promise that you promised to them, guess what's gonna happen? Breaking the promise will definitely can ruin years of building credibility, especially if the promise that you weren't able to keep is very important for them. And here's the most important thing you need to know as well, guys. Keeping promises is a base or huge factor for building trust, and that's actually applies on both personal business relations, and trust is something that you want to value, create, and keep. Let's get on to the third and final negative habit, and that will be being too risk averse. Now, I am positively for sure that you never heard of this term before, which is risk aversion. Well, to be honest with you, I'm indeed positively for real with this statement that I'm about to say. It's okay if you never heard of this. Why? Simple. The school system itself will never teach you this kind of term. Why? Because this this term is more like a widely used term in the business field, especially on the investing niche, from investing stocks, commodities, cryptocurrency, and the list goes on forever. Before I explain why this habit is considered to be bad news for us, let me briefly explain the textbook definition of risk averse. Now, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, a risk averse person is someone who is unwilling to take risk or unwanting to avoid risk as much as possible. That sounds like a bad news, huh? Now that I have explained its textbook definition, let me go right ahead and discuss the whole deal with this terrible habit. First things first, this habit is something that I hate so much. I loathe this habit. I really do. Here's the thing about this habit. This is one of those negative habits, just like the first two negative habits that I've mentioned on this episode, that I hate so much. And also the one habit that every entrepreneur and every average people should never have. And I'm gonna tell you what in a few. It's very simple actually. This habit is actually closely related to skepticism. Now, why in the world would I say this is relatable to skepticism? Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the thing that you may never actually realize. A skeptical person has this one common trait that most people never see or seem to understand before. All skeptical people have this one disgusting trait, which is they are afraid. Afraid, ladies and gentlemen. Question is, afraid of what? They are afraid of one thing, ladies and gentlemen, and that is risk. They're afraid of making risk. I mean, I don't know why, but here's my full in-depth about that. The reason why skeptical people are just skeptical is simple. They are so damn afraid and scared to take risks in their lives that therefore they are basing their knowledge based on the experience that they have gone through so far. I believe that this is one of the most important habits that we must build and nurture, because if we do not like taking risks, then how do you expect to see results on your life or become a better person? Yes, I understand how hard life is, but it is not a damn excuse for you guys to be ignorant and skeptical at all. Do you honestly believe if becoming a skeptical person will make your life better? Hell no, not a chance at all. Also, if you're listening to this episode today and you happen to be in the path of entrepreneurship, heed my advice seriously, guys, because one of the great qualities of a great entrepreneur and a great leader as well is to be a risk taker, a maverick in the game of entrepreneurship. You cannot afford to be afraid and scared of taking risks. Entrepreneurship is just a part of the game, ladies and gentlemen. Point is, being too risk averse is not a good idea at all, and especially I will never ever in a million years recommend to practice this ridiculous habit, because, and I mean, trust me on this one, guys, this can be your ultimate downfall for you as a person and as well as an entrepreneur, ladies and gentlemen. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I have finally listed the top negative habits that everyone needs to give up and especially to avoid in order to become successful. And yes, all of these habits are applied to everyone, entrepreneurs, leaders, and especially you. And like I said, the list can go on. I mean, this whole episode, every episode that I create in the Hustle Factory podcast show is just not meant for entrepreneurs, but it is mainly, and it is kind of somehow also applies to everyday average people as well, but mostly to entrepreneurs. So, and also for all the people who wants to get into the game of entrepreneurship. And you might be actually wondering, why would I only list just 3 habits instead of a shitload of them? Well, it is pretty simple, guys. Before I started recording for this episode, I did an extensive research about this topic carefully and made a list only the top 3 negative habits that seems to be the most critical of them all, right? Meaning, I only listed and I chose the negative habits that seems to affect the most of your success. Yep, that's right. And trust me, when I did my research on that, there was a lot of them, and I believe there's like around 10 to 20 negative habits that every person needs to get rid of or needs to stop doing it. So I hope with this episode I have created, I hope that I may inspire all of you guys for giving up these negative habits that I mentioned in today's episode, because trust me, forming negative habits is just the same thing as asking for you to fail. Before we end this another awesome episode of the Hustle Factory podcast show, I would like to share you guys something at the end. So stay tuned for the next couple of minutes of your time, and I promise you I will be able to intrigue your interest. So here goes. To all of my loyal listeners of my podcast show, I got something amazing to share to all of you guys. So stick around for the next couple of minutes, and I promise this is going to be awesome. So here goes. I got one question for you guys. Are you keeping business options open right now? Yes or no? If yes, I recommend you to stay tuned for the next vital information of what I'm about to say. Now, I would like to tell you more about this company. It is partnered with a 7-year-old international gun company. They are number 1 in their category worldwide in over 120 plus countries. Its customers base of over 500,000 people all over the world. Wow, that's big. All over the world and 120 countries. Hell yeah. And finally, over 100 million of sales in 7 years. Whoa, that is crazy. So let me tell tell you what's going on and what's the reason that I'm sharing this with you guys. We are expanding operations in the next phase. What happened in the last 120 days? Its growth spurt almost outmatched the last 7 years. That's pretty expensive, guys. Also, and I believe also, this is probably one of the most important things I would like to tell you guys, that this company have launched a new cryptocurrency. Wow. So if you're a cryptocurrency savvy and you're into that, I suggest you stay on this and then ask for more information about it. Point is, I'm looking for motivated individuals who are interested in positioning themselves in front of this next big thing that will profit from it. So I just gotta ask one thing though. Are you open? Do you want more information? Yes or no? If so, if you find this very interesting and would like to learn more, go right ahead and subscribe to my SoundCloud channel, or simply go ahead and follow me on my Twitter handle at John Limdemus, and I will be glad to tell you more information about it. And you can go ahead as well, private message me on Twitter as well, and I will go right ahead and tell you more great information about that, guys. So you guys might be wondering, what did I just share earlier, or intrigue your, or if I somehow intrigue your interest? Well, let me know in the comments below if you're interested to know more about the company, and that you're interested to know more about the company that I am affiliated with. Or you can simply just follow me on Twitter at John Limdemus and quickly send me a private message there, and I will get back with you as soon as possible. Sounds easy, right? Now that I have shared what I wanted to share to my loyal subscribers and listeners, it is time for me to wrap up the show and call it the end. Ladies and gentlemen, you have now reached the end of another lit and a freaking amazing episode of the Hustle Factory podcast show. So if this is your first time to my podcast show on SoundCloud, make sure to subscribe to my show, and do not forget to follow us on our social media platforms, like on our official Facebook page and Twitter as well. You can also check them out on my SoundCloud profile page, or go ahead and simply follow me on Twitter at Each Factory Podcast, and look me on Facebook for a page follow at the Hustle Factory Podcast Show. You will immediately see me there. Lastly, I just want to say thank you for listening to my new episode of the Hustle Factory Podcast Show, and I am so glad and psyched on the engagement rate of the podcast show that I'm getting so far, and I am truly happy and blessed about the great results that I have so far since the launch of my podcast show a month ago. Once again, thanks for listening to my show, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.